highs and lows of moving to Thailand. Where do I start with that? For starters, I'll talk about where we are today, the heats for the World Jet Ski Championships going on here in a couple of days. Adjusting to life here has not been easy. The difference between visiting as a tourist for 2 weeks compared to living here for 6 months, worlds apart. Today I'm going to break that down and I'm going to rip apart what were some of the toughest things to get used to and what are some of the best parts about living here instead of in the West. So let's get the nasty stuff out of the way first. Something that is almost a daily frustration for me is what I see to be an apparent lack of self-preservation here. Hear the roar of the jet ski in the background. Some might say it seems like life is cheap here. A politer way of saying that might be to say that the community doesn't seem to take as many precautions as they do in the West regarding their personal safety and, most prominent for me, road safety. Now, I don't know if that's a Buddhist thing or people just in Thailand accept death more efficiently than we do in the West. There's certainly a disparity between the precautions that we take when we're using the road in Australia versus precautions or lack thereof that I see here. So we'll head down to the water's edge and talk about that. I'm going to relate an experience that happened just 5 minutes ago as I was riding to Jomtien beach on the motor scooter. What I saw was a family, a father, riding his motor scooter with one of those sidecars. And in the sidecar, it was like a food stall, like a mobile food stall. And he had presumably his wife and his 2 children in there. So I came in behind him and the wheel bearing on the cart going like this. Man, it was minutes away from falling off. And you know, a wheel bearing going at speed, a wheel falling off is catastrophic. And he had his wife and 2 kids and his entire livelihood there. Now, my first thought was, oh my gosh, I've got to pull over and let this guy know that his wheel bearing's stuffed. And I thought, no, there's no way that you're going to be able to drive and not know that. It's going to be going like this, right? So he'd made a conscious decision, obviously, to drive the cart that day with the dodgy wheel. Living here, you learn to accept things that are very foreign to you. But seeing that with the kids in there and the family, I felt angry. It's a generalization, but the drivers don't seem to take precautions either. I can't remember the last time I saw someone use their indicator, for instance. Now, is this really a low point for me? Well, yeah, it is. It frustrates me because it's so different to home, you know? In Australia, the government spends so much money on road safety advertising and campaigns, speeding, drink driving, wearing your seatbelt, not driving when you're tired. And speaking about governance, I just noticed that Pattaya Beach Road, one of the busiest roads, the busiest road in Pattaya, the whole sidewalk is being ripped up as we speak, right at the beginning of high season, so pedestrians are forced to walk onto the road, onto the busiest road in Pattaya. Now, it's not my place to judge, but inevitably I find this quite frustrating on a daily basis. Watch out, jellyfish about. So the Jet Ski World Cup is international. You can see from the flags represented by riders from countries all over the world. They're still setting up now, but starting next Friday, Saturday 16th, Sunday 17th, it's gonna be a big one, I can tell. Hey, look what I just spotted. My first Honda Dio. All right, so these things were a classic in the 80s and 90s. They were a cheap buy, a reliable cheap buy. They started as 2-strokes, then they made a 4-stroke version, but they have become cult classics all over the world. Let's have a look. The regular scooter next to it has a top speed of 160. Dio, just 60 kilometers. Setting up. The more time I spend here, the more I appreciate scooters. A black Wave versus a black PCX versus a busted up old Scoopy. Hey, jet ski up there. The second major low point for me living here is my impotence. I'm impotent when it comes to affecting any meaningful change in the life of my girlfriend regarding her administrative life issues and her family problems. And a lot of that comes down to not being able to speak the language. Pattaya windsurfing competition, international windsurfing championship. And they're off. It's a bit hard to see the windsurfers from here, so let's throw the drone up. I'll explain what I mean about not being able to affect, meaningful change. Look, I was a failure back home in certain terms. I was fiscally irresponsible. I had a job that absolutely drained me, nearly killed me. And I managed to save exactly no money whilst in that career for 15 years, accumulate no property and build no family. But I did have one thing in Australia, and that was the ability to make change where I saw change needed to be made. I had friends in governance, friends in the police, friends who worked in the medical scene. If I needed to help someone else, if I needed something done, I knew where to go for that. And I had the language to ask for it. Massive generalization, you could say that there I was a someone with nothing. Here, I'm a nobody with everything. Now these lows might sound trivial to some people, but they're some of the things that really rock me living here. And some of it really gets me upset and frustrated, almost on a daily basis. Now, thank God, I have some strategies to help myself manage these stresses. To be honest, it's not all fun and games. One of my favorite free activities to do is to come down to Jomtien boat ramp and watch the festivities. Buying fruit in Russian? Only in South Jomtien would there be a Russian sales advertisement. So what stands out as one of the main highs of moving to Thailand and living here, you guessed it, the social aspect. I was 37 when I left Australia and my social life was all but nil. Butkus. Nada. Most of my friends in their 30s and 40s, they'd ceased socialising, or at least with me, at least regularly. And I'm willing to bet a lot of people in their 40s, 50s, 60s watching this probably feel the same way. Obviously a lot of it's got to do with money, but here you can wake up, open your front door, walk outside, and there is a gamut of people that are ready and willing and able and excited to hang out. Let's call this high feeling socially fulfilled. Let's roll a bit of footage. Let's roll some historic footage that I've got in my collection from hanging out the bars down at 7th Street there. 7th Street, between hanging out with the staff that work there and all the customers that come through. I'm not socially fulfilled. I feel socially overloaded, which is an absolutely novel feeling. What am I? 37. I haven't really felt socially fulfilled since I was 27. So for the last 10 years, it's been a pretty lonely, solitary existence in Sydney, Australia's most populous city. Here's something I did not expect when I moved to Thailand. Despite the low average incomes here, people seem to spend so much more time together, eating, socializing, drinking, and really focusing on what they do have, not what they don't have or what they want. And I can't talk about things that I love about Thailand without mentioning this. The feeling I get when I wake up in the morning and I know that I can support myself, only just, but I can support myself financially by being creative, taking photos and making videos is something that I really couldn't have dreamed of. Waking up without dreading, and I mean dreading, going to work, risking life and limb. Whoop. Bumpy roads, unlike Kizzy, ain't a thing for me. I can't tell you how amazing it feels going to bed knowing that in the morning when I get up, I don't have to go back to that life. I can stay here abroad, overseas, and survive on minimum income and not have to do that gut-wrenching work that I did 5 days a week back in Australia. Because my mindset was, that's the only thing I can do. I'm gonna do this forever until I die. And it was pretty unhealthy. Obviously, highs and lows are different for every person, and these aren't all of mine, these are just the things that are on the top of my head. Thank you for tuning in. Whoop. And I'll catch you tomorrow. Whoa, I nearly forgot. Quick shout out to those beautiful humans that opted to send in a couple of bucks on Buy Me a Coffee. The Kroom, Kazi, Dion, Chuck, Jason, S, Mikkel. These Buy Me a Coffee donations mean the world to me. Thank you so much.